In the last video, I fabricated the handle despite needing an improvised lathe due to equipment failure. Broke some more tools along the way, but that's par for the course at this point. With all the pieces now fabricated, we can begin final assembly and finish work on this monstrosity. Hey, real quick, check this out. It's pretty weird, right? If only there was some way to rectify the situation. Oh yeah, and buy my merch. It's pretty sweet, right? Okay, well, I mean, we're threaded. I guess you know what comes next. Well, it doesn't thread in all the way. Alright, so I ended up shortening the threaded portion because the weld repair inside that hole has shortened the depth of the hole, so nothing fit together anyway. So those damaged threads from the broken die actually have no effect at this point, thankfully. So it's a little wobbly because I haven't actually tightened anything. I just kind of wanted to see how it looks real quick. And I would say it's not bad. It's actually really hard to tell because of the way the handle tapers down. It's hard to tell what I'm looking at, but I think we're pretty close. Anything left can probably be, manually bent out. All right, good enough for now. Let's get this back apart and let's work on the infinite sanding and filing of all these little bits of leftover material from the milling here. Should take quite some time. Okay, so I got the sword in my welding / grinding bay now with the better lights, and I have terrible news. I was completely wrong about the handle being straight. It's off in 2 different dimensions, if you can believe that. It's fairly obvious when you look at it here. We're fairly tight. But then you can see there's a small gap here, and especially on the left side. So basically the handle is down and to the right very slightly. I guess you can see it. Yeah, I can see it now that I actually really look at it. It all depends on your perspective, but did some measuring, and as far as I can tell, it's about 3/4 of a degree off in both axes. You get the idea. So now, what's the fix? I think the fix is pretty basic here. We're gonna go the caveman route, and we're gonna use that big piece of pipe on the end of this for some mechanical advantage, and then we'll take some assistance from our blue friend right here to help persuade things along nicely. Given that it's such a small defect, I think we can bend it out easily. Ideally, I'd probably just cut those threads off, remachine the end of this, make the handle like 1 inch shorter, and then recut the thread straight. But my lathe is broken, and I have absolutely no idea when the replacement motor is coming in. And I have to get this whole sword done and delivered in less than 3 weeks. So I'm just gonna have to go with what I have at the moment. Wow, so that was it. It was actually no work at all. I didn't even need to use the torch. It just cold mended a little bit and got me exactly where we needed. You can see these gaps look pretty identical. I haven't actually tightened it all the way down because I want to remove this. All right, let's see how this checks out. Since I milled the top of the guard flat, it should be, as flat with the blade as possible. So zero that out. Okay, now the end of the handle is straight, so this should give us an accurate reading. So, I mean, whew, not bad for my first try. Let's try the other way. Yep, well, I mean, I don't know, that's just gotta be luck. There's no way. I literally bent it for like 10 seconds and it ended up perfect. Now to measure the side to side, I'm gonna use my very nice digital caliper here. Let me set the camera up on a tripod. Okay, so if I kind of jam the caliper in this corner, let's see, what do we get for distance? Got 13.126 inches. Now let's try the other side. Got 13.134 inches. That's 0.08 of an inch off. That's 0.2 millimeters, maybe 2 human hairs side by side. I mean, it's not gonna get any better than that. If I try to adjust it, it's gonna be worse, so calling it good. Alright, we are looking pretty good here. I'm more than halfway done. I've got pretty much the whole guard section, you know, sanded and filed down. You can see down here there's still some defects to take out where, you know, the milling wasn't just perfect. I'll have to flip the sword to do that. I've got the rest of it cleaned up. We're looking really nice. The only thing left to do on this side is this part of the guard. You can see how it got all sort of blackened and nasty from all that heat. The only problem here is it's going to be difficult to sand this section without getting into the black oxide here and ruining it. So what I came up with is this. This is actually a piece of vinyl. I cut it on my vinyl cutter, and I'll just remove the circular section and I'll use this part as a perfect template for this. I can lay it down and it'll, you know, kind of half-assed protect the sword while I sand the rest of this. It shouldn't take much. I already kind of finished it. It's just, it's got this like blackened oil and maybe even a little bit of scale on it, but it shouldn't take too much work. And we can flip this thing over and clean up the other side and we're done. Alright, now last thing to do here is to thread the handle in. I've cleaned up both sides of the mating surfaces and we're ready to thread this handle in. Now I'm going to use Loctite, which is a thread locking compound. Oddly enough, the red compound comes in a blue bottle, and I don't know if you can read that, but the blue compound comes in a red bottle. It's kind of ridiculous, but the red is kind of semi-permanent. You have to use heat to remove it. I'm going to use it on this side, and then on the pommel side I'll use the blue, which is pretty strong, but it can be removed without heat. Alright, so the handle is threaded to the sword, the pommel is threaded to the handle. Now trying to get this flat surface parallel to the guard or the blade is obviously a slight problem here, right? Normally I would just position it, fixture it, and weld it in place. In this case, I'm just gonna stick this guy on here, and I'm gonna zero it out. Let's just make sure here, 0, 0. No way. Ah! That is pretty amazing. That was like a 1 in a million shot. Well, it looks good to me. Just a little sanity check. The Loctite will keep it in position, so it'll stay that way. We're looking really good here. I'm just gonna throw a quick wrap of some white cotton bandages on here, and just to see what it looks like. All right, well, that is all she wrote. I would call this done. I'm gonna give it a final polish and waxing and such right before I pack it up. But this is 99.9% of the way there. I think it came out pretty well. I can of course see some random defects, but they're always gonna be there. Truth be told, I have never actually been happy with any of the swords I've made, but that's just the way it goes when you're a perfectionist trying to make perfect creations. All right, so it is time to lift the sword. Now I have made this sort of improvised platform here so I can pick it up. I needed to raise the sword so that it doesn't chop my feet off when I drop it. My feet are gonna go in these cutouts right here, and I'm wearing armored boots, but as you can see, it fits under here. It gives me just enough clearance so that, you know, I'll keep my feet. I've got to rig something up so that I can actually grab the sword, because grabbing it by the edge is not gonna happen. But before I do that, I figured I might as well weigh it. Now, I've got the scale zeroed out. It actually says -16, and that's because it is zeroed out holding this thing, but it is currently slack. So we are ready to go here. I'm gonna pick this thing up, see what she weighs. All right, I had to wait a minute for the sword to stop swaying a little bit because the weight was jumping all over the place, but it looks like we are at 147 kilograms. We have air under the whole sword here. It should be good to go. I think 147 kilograms, just doing the math in my head, I think that's actually right what I guessed it to be, 325 pounds. That's gotta be really close. Let me go do the math real quick. Well, that's it, 324.08. I was less than a pound off. That is, I don't know what to say about that. That's pretty crazy. All right, let's put this thing down. Let's get it in position. I'll strap some handles to it and let's see if I can pick it up. All right, here goes nothing. Gonna use my old man lifting belt here. Not that I necessarily think I need it, but I really like how it gives me this nice muffin top and muffin bottom at the same time. Also gonna use these quasi straps. Again, not that I think I need it for this weight, but I got blisters all over my fingers and I really don't want to drop the sword. It would be a bad day. Yep, that's pretty heavy. I can't move my legs any further because the ratchet strap is digging in. Woo! Just passed out there. Whew. Already even just holding this stupid thing up. You know, I knew how tall it was, but I guess it didn't really register until I actually stood it up next to me. I'm like 6'3" or so. This thing's right about 6'8", I believe. Almost 80 inches. Alright, that's it. We're finally done. Believe it or not, that was 397 days of work. I couldn't tell you how many hours it was, several hundred. I didn't keep track. I do have a Patreon if you would like to support me and enable me to create even more ridiculous things in the future. Oh yeah, one last thing. Leave me a comment below on which sword you'd like to see next. Till next time.